Welcome to the world of science fiction. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss new stories. Enjoy the listening.
Jack stared at the vibrant purple-skinned woman standing in his living room, his jaw hanging open. He blinked hard, certain he must be hallucinating. But when he opened his eyes again, she was still there, smiling at him with an otherworldly gleam in her eyes. "Happy birthday, grandson," his grandfather Walter bellowed, clapping him on the back. "Meet Z, your new companion." Jack's gaze darted between his grinning grandfather and the alien woman. "Grandpa, what the hell?" Z stepped forward, her movements fluid and graceful. "Greetings, Jack of Earth. I am most pleased to make your acquaintance." She extended her hand, but instead of shaking his, she grasped his wrist and traced intricate patterns on his palm with her fingertip. Jack jerked his hand away, his skin tingling. "Okay, seriously, what's going on?" Walter chuckled. "Well, son, remember those classified missions I used to go on for NASA? Let's just say I made some interesting friends out there in the cosmos. Z here is from a planet called Neutron. She's come to study Earth culture, particularly our customs of courtship and intimacy. And you thought gifting her to me was appropriate," Jack hissed, pulling his grandfather aside. Walter shrugged. "You've been moping around since Sarah left. Figured you could use some excitement in your life." Meanwhile, Z wandered around the apartment, examining everything with intense curiosity. She picked up a potted cactus, sniffed it, then licked one of the spines. "Fascinating," she exclaimed, even as a drop of purple blood welled on her tongue. Jack rushed over. "Whoa, careful, that's not for eating." Z's eyes widened. "My apologies, I'm still learning about Earth flora. On Neutron, we consume information through taste, as well as sight and sound." "Right," Jack muttered, still trying to process the situation. He turned back to his grandfather. "Look, I appreciate the thought, I guess, but I can't just keep an alien." Walter waved his hand dismissively. "Nonsense. Z's perfectly capable of blending in. Show him, dear." Z nodded and closed her eyes in concentration. Her purple skin rippled and shifted, taking on a more human tone. Her features subtly rearranged themselves until she looked like any attractive young woman you might pass on the street, albeit with a slight purplish tint if you looked closely. Jack's eyes bulged. "That's impressive," he admitted. Z beamed at the compliment. "Thank you, Jack of Earth. Your species form is quite pleasing, especially yours." She reached out and stroked his cheek, her touch sending an electric tingle through his body. Jack stumbled backward, flustered. Thanks. Listen, this is all very flattering, but—" "Oh, come on, Jack," Walter interrupted. "Where's your sense of adventure? Think of all you could learn from each other. And between you and me," he leaned in, whispering conspiratorially, "Neutrons are very skilled in matters of physical pleasure, if you catch my drift." "Grandpa!" Jack exclaimed, his face burning. Z tilted her head, observing their interaction. "Have I caused offense? On Neutron, discussion of mating practices is quite common." Jack pinched the bridge of his nose. No, it's just... Look, on Earth we usually get to know someone before jumping into that kind of thing." "Ah, I see. A courtship ritual. How fascinating. I would very much like to learn about these practices." Z's eyes lit up with genuine excitement. Despite himself, Jack found her enthusiasm endearing. He sighed, realizing he couldn't just kick her out. "All right, fine. I guess I can show you around, teach you some basics about Earth culture. But no funny business, okay?" Z nodded solemnly. "I swear on the 7 moons of Neutron to behave with utmost propriety." Walter clapped his hands together. "Excellent. Now who wants cake?" As his grandfather busied himself in the kitchen, Jack slumped onto the couch, still reeling. Z sat beside him, a bit too close for comfort. "I sense your discomfort, Jack of Earth," she said softly. "I assure you, my intentions are purely academic, though I must admit, I find your species quite intriguing." Her eyes roamed over him appreciatively. Jack shifted awkwardly. "Right, well, let's start with some Earth 101, shall we? First lesson, personal space." Z nodded eagerly, pulling out a small device that looked like a cross between a smartphone and a tricorder. "Please, enlighten me." Over the next hour, Jack gave Z a crash course in basic human interaction. She absorbed everything with rapt attention, occasionally asking questions that ranged from insightful to hilariously inappropriate. "So the act of kissing is a common display of affection?" she asked at one point. Yeah, between couples mostly," Jack replied. Z's eyes lit up. "Fascinating. On Neutron, we express intimacy by synchronizing our bioluminescent patterns. May I observe a demonstration of this kissing?" Jack choked on his beer. "What? No, I mean, that's not really something you just do on command." "I see," Z said, looking slightly disappointed. "Perhaps another time." As the evening wore on, Jack found himself relaxing slightly. Z's genuine curiosity and guileless nature were disarming. Plus, he had to admit, she was captivating to look at, even in her more human form. Walter eventually bid them good night, leaving with a wink and a not-so-subtle thumbs up that made Jack want to crawl under the couch. "So," Jack said, after his grandfather left, "I guess we should figure out sleeping arrangements." Z perked up. On Neutron, it's customary for new acquaintances to share sleeping quarters to promote bonding. Jack's eyes widened. That's not really how we do things here." "Oh." Z's face fell. "I have much to learn about Earth customs." Jack felt a pang of guilt. "Hey, it's okay. You can take my bed. I'll crash on the couch." Z brightened. "You're very kind, Jack of Earth. I look forward to our cultural exchange." As Jack settled onto the couch that night, his mind raced. What had his grandfather gotten him into? How was he supposed to explain Z to his friends? And why couldn't he stop thinking about the way her eyes sparkled when she smiled? Little did he know, this was only the beginning of his interstellar adventure. The next morning, Jack awoke to the smell of burning. He bolted upright and rushed to the kitchen, where he found Z amidst a cloud of smoke, proudly holding a plate of what looked like charred rocks. "Good morning, Jack of Earth. I have prepared a traditional Neutronian breakfast delicacy for you. It's called Gurthor's Delight." Jack coughed, waving away the smoke. Thanks, Z. That's really thoughtful of you." He hesitantly picked up one of the blackened lumps. It was heavy and seemed to be emitting a faint glow. "So, what exactly is in this Gurthor's Delight?" he asked, dreading the answer. Z's eyes lit up. "Oh, it's quite simple. I merely combined some earth ingredients to approximate the recipe. It's mostly composed of what you call coffee grounds, mixed with baking soda for that signature fizz, and a dash of your drain cleaner to replicate the natural acids found in Neutronian soil." Jack's eyes widened in horror. He carefully set the plate down and grabbed Z's hands before she could take a bite. "Okay, new rule. No more cooking without supervision. How about we stick to cereal for breakfast?" Z looked disappointed, but nodded. "I see. Earth digestive systems must be quite fragile." As they sat down to their decidedly less lethal breakfast of Cheerios, Jack couldn't help but chuckle. "You know, Z, your enthusiasm is admirable. Maybe we can find some Earth recipes to try together that won't, kill us." Z's face brightened. Oh, I would love that, Jack of Earth. Perhaps we could make it a regular activity. I believe Earth people call it a date. Jack nearly choked on his cereal. Well, cooking together isn't necessarily a date, but sure, we can make it a thing. Later that week, Jack decided to take Z to the beach. He figured it would be a good opportunity for her to observe Earth culture in a relaxed setting. What he didn't anticipate was Z's reaction to the ocean. As soon as they arrived, Z sprinted towards the water, shedding her human disguise in her excitement. Several beachgoers gasped as the purple-skinned alien dove into the waves. "Z, wait!" Jack called out, but it was too late. Minutes passed, and Z didn't resurface. Jack began to panic, wading into the water and scanning the horizon. Just as he was about to call for help, Z burst out of the water several yards away, performing a series of acrobatic flips that would put any dolphin to shame. "Jack of Earth," she called out joyfully, "your planet's aquatic environment is magnificent. Did you know I can breathe underwater? Observe." With that, she dove back under the waves. Jack groaned, noticing a crowd gathering on the shore, pointing and murmuring. A lifeguard approached, looking concerned. "Sir, is that your friend out there? Is she okay?" Jack forced a laugh. "Oh yeah, she's fine. She's just, a really good swimmer. Professional, actually. From Europe." The lifeguard didn't look convinced. "Right. Well, you might want to tell her to tone it down a bit. She's scaring the other swimmers." Jack nodded, then cupped his hands around his mouth. "Z, time to come in now." Z emerged from the water, looking puzzled. "But Jack of Earth, I was just beginning to communicate with the local marine life. Did you know your octopi have fascinating views on tentacle etiquette?" As they left the beach, Jack couldn't help but smile at Z's childlike wonder. Despite the close calls and constant need for damage control, he found her presence in his life increasingly endearing. Over the next few weeks, Jack took it upon himself to teach Z about Earth dating customs. This led to a series of both hilarious and mortifying experiences. At a fancy restaurant, Z misinterpreted the concept of playing footsie and extended her leg across the table, knocking over a candle and nearly setting the tablecloth on fire. During a movie, she became so engrossed in the on-screen kiss that she unconsciously shapeshifted to mimic the actress, startling the couple seated next to them. And at a dance club, her attempt at grinding resulted in her literally grinding against Jack with such force that he feared for the structural integrity of his pelvis. Through it all, Jack found himself growing more and more attached to the quirky alien. Her genuine curiosity about Earth and its inhabitants was refreshing, and her unique perspective often made him see his own world in a new light. One evening, as they walked home from a particularly eventful mini-golf outing during which Z had accidentally launched a ball into low Earth orbit, Jack's grandfather, Walter, called. "Hey, sport," Walter's voice boomed through the speaker. "How's it going with our extraterrestrial friend?" Jack glanced at Z, who was currently fascinated by a streetlight. "It's interesting, Grandpa. Never a dull moment, that's for sure." Walter chuckled. "That's what I like to hear. Listen, I've got some interstellar relationship advice for you. When I was on that classified mission to Alpha Centauri back in '69... "Grandpa, please," Jack interrupted. "I really don't need to hear about your adventures." Jack quickly made an excuse and hung up, his ears burning. Z looked at him curiously. "Jack of Earth, your epidermal layer has taken on a most fascinating reddish hue. Is this a normal human response to communication with one's elders?" Jack sighed. "No, Z. That's just the effect my grandfather's stories have on me. Let's change the subject." As Z became more integrated into Jack's life, he decided it was time to introduce her to his friends. He gathered a small group for a house party, coaching Z extensively on how to behave normally. At first, things seemed to be going well. Z, in her human disguise, charmed Jack's friends with her unique observations and genuine interest in their lives. However, as the night wore on and the alcohol flowed, maintaining her cover became more challenging. During a heated round of charades, Z got so into her performance that she accidentally shapeshifted into the very object she was trying to portray, in this case, a blender. The room fell silent as Jack's friends stared at the purple humanoid kitchen appliance standing before them. "Dude," Jack's best friend Tom finally said, "what the hell is going on?" The room fell silent as Jack's friends stared at the purple humanoid kitchen appliance standing before them. Jack's best friend Tom finally broke the silence. "Dude, what the hell is going on?" Jack stammered, his mind racing for an explanation. This is Z. She's really into method acting." Z quickly transformed back into her human disguise, looking slightly embarrassed. "I apologize if my performance was too convincing. I tend to get carried away." Tom blinked, still processing. Method acting? Right. Despite the awkward moment, the party continued, with Z making a conscious effort to blend in. By the end of the night, most of Jack's friends had warmed up to her, finding her quirky behavior endearing rather than odd. A few days later, Jack decided to take Z on a quintessentially human experience, a trip to the amusement park. He thought the sensory overload and various attractions would both entertain and educate her about Earth culture. As they walked through the park, Z's excitement was palpable. She marveled at everything from the roller coasters to the carnival games. "Jack of Earth, what is the purpose of this establishment?" she asked, eyes wide with wonder. "It's a place for fun," Jack explained. "People come here to enjoy the rides, eat junk food, and just have a good time." They started with the Ferris wheel, which Z found both fascinating and calming. Next, they tried a few of the more thrilling rides. Z's reactions ranged from laughter to sheer exhilaration, her face lighting up with every new experience. When they reached the bumper cars, Z's competitive streak emerged. "Jack of Earth, this activity seems to involve simulated vehicular combat. Is that correct?" "Yeah, pretty much," Jack laughed. "Just bump into other cars and try not to get bumped too much yourself." Z grinned, her eyes gleaming with excitement. "I accept this challenge." Once inside the arena, Z's driving skills turned out to be surprisingly adept, considering she had never driven a car before. She navigated the bumper cars with a mix of precision and aggression that left Jack and other riders both impressed and slightly intimidated. After the bumper cars, they wandered through the food stalls, sampling cotton candy, corn dogs, and funnel cakes. Z's reactions to the various flavors were a mix of delight and curiosity. "The diversity of Earth cuisine is truly remarkable," she remarked, savoring a bite of cotton candy. "The texture and sweetness of this substance are quite pleasing." As the day wore on, they reached the game booths. Z was particularly fascinated by the concept of winning prizes through skill. She insisted on trying every game, determined to understand the appeal. To Jack's surprise, she quickly adapted to each challenge, winning several stuffed animals and other trinkets. Their final stop was the haunted house. Jack wasn't sure how Z would react to the simulated scares, but her curiosity was insistent. As they navigated the dark, spooky corridors, Z's calm demeanor contrasted sharply with the screams and jumps of other patrons. "Jack of Earth, the holographic and animatronic technology used here is quite impressive," she commented, examining a particularly realistic ghost. However, I fail to see why Earthlings find this frightening. That's part of the fun, Jack explained. It's the thrill of being scared, knowing it's not real. When they exited the haunted house, Z turned to Jack with a thoughtful expression. I have much to learn about the intricacies of human emotions. Your species is truly fascinating. Jack smiled. You're doing great, Z. It's a lot to take in, but you're handling it well. As they made their way back home, Z looked up at the stars, her eyes reflecting the distant lights. Jack of Earth, thank you for today. Your world is both strange and wonderful, and I am grateful to experience it with you. Jack felt a warmth in his chest at her words. Anytime, Z. I'm glad you're here. As they approached Jack's apartment, he couldn't help but think about how much his life had changed since Z arrived. Every day brought new surprises and challenges, but also a sense of excitement and discovery. With Z by his side, he realized life was anything but ordinary. That night, as they settled in, Jack's phone buzzed with a text from his grandfather. How's our alien friend doing? Hope you two are getting along. Jack smiled, typing back a quick response. She's amazing, Grandpa. Thanks for the best birthday gift ever. Z, noticing Jack's smile, asked, Is everything all right, Jack of Earth? Yeah, Z, Jack replied, his heart full. Everything's just fine. The following morning, Jack woke to the sound of Z's voice coming from the living room. Groggy, he shuffled out of bed to find her in an animated conversation with what looked like a holographic projection of another Neotronian. Z, what's going on? He asked, rubbing his eyes. Z turned to him, smiling brightly. Jack of Earth, I was just speaking with my mentor from Neotron. They are very pleased with the progress of my research on Earth customs. Jack blinked, still adjusting to the sight. So, what now? Are you reporting back everything you've learned? Z nodded. Yes, but they have also requested that I extend my stay. There is much more to observe and understand. Jack felt a strange mix of relief and excitement. That's great, Z. I guess that means we have more time to explore and learn together. As they sat down for breakfast, Z brought up an idea she had been considering. Jack of Earth, I believe it would be beneficial to engage in a deeper cultural exchange. I propose that we travel to various parts of your planet to observe different customs and traditions. Jack thought about it for a moment. You mean like a road trip? Precisely, Z replied. A journey across your diverse regions would provide a comprehensive understanding of Earth's varied cultures. Jack grinned. I think that sounds like an incredible idea. Where do you want to start? Z's eyes lit up with excitement. I have been particularly curious about a place called New Orleans. The reports of its unique music, cuisine, and festivities are most intriguing. Within a few days, Jack and Z were on the road heading towards New Orleans. The trip itself was a learning experience for Z, who marveled at the changing landscapes and various roadside attractions. Jack enjoyed her constant curiosity and the way she saw everything with fresh eyes. When they finally arrived in New Orleans, the city was in the midst of preparing for Mardi Gras. The vibrant energy and colorful decorations were a feast for Z's senses. They spent their days exploring the French Quarter, sampling local delicacies like beignets and gumbo, and their nights enjoying live jazz performances. One evening, as they strolled along Bourbon Street, Z turned to Jack. The music here is unlike anything I have encountered. It is as if the soul of the city is expressed through these melodies. Jack nodded, feeling a deep appreciation for the culture he had often taken for granted. Yeah, it's something special. I'm glad you're getting to experience it. As the week went on, they participated in various Mardi Gras events. Z was particularly fascinated by the parades and the elaborate costumes. She even joined in, donning a colorful mask and dancing in the streets with Jack. Their travels didn't stop there. Over the next few months, they visited numerous other locations, each with its own unique flavor. From the sunny beaches of California to the historic sites of Washington, D.C., and the natural wonders of Yellowstone National Park, every destination offered new insights and experiences. Throughout their journey, Jack and Z grew closer. Z's understanding of Earth deepened, and Jack found himself seeing his own world in a new light. Their bond was strengthened by shared adventures and the constant joy of discovery. One evening, as they sat by a campfire under the vast Montana sky, Z looked at Jack with a thoughtful expression. "Jack of Earth, this journey has been remarkable. Your planet's diversity and beauty are beyond anything I could have imagined." Jack smiled, feeling a deep sense of contentment. "I'm glad you're enjoying it, Z. I've had the time of my life showing you around." Z reached out, her hand gently touching his. "I must confess, Jack, that my time here has also led me to understand something new about myself. My purpose was to study and report, but I have found something more, something I did not anticipate." Jack's heart pounded in his chest as he looked into Z's eyes. "What's that, Z?" "I have found a connection with you, Jack of Earth, a bond that transcends the boundaries of our origins. It is love, I believe you call it." Jack felt a surge of emotion, realizing that he felt the same way. "Z, I love you too." Under the starry sky, they shared their first kiss, a moment that was both otherworldly and deeply human. As they held each other close, Jack knew that no matter where their journey took them next, they would face it together, united by the love that had blossomed between an Earthling and an alien. Subscribe to watch more amazing sci-fi stories.